Greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Reddit series video from the subreddit HFY, called Contact Procedures Chapter 3, written by MeatFcker. The link to the original will be down below, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. A single human missile is a terrifying thing. Tipped with the fusion warheads, their massive drive gives them more than 20,000 kilometers of powered flight. Radar, scattering armor, powerful computers tucked into the cores to guide its flight, prioritizing targets to attack patterns and ruthless efficiency, and advanced sensors blending centuries of human ingenuity and the pinnacle of galactic technology. Always knows where the victim is. A human missile never loses your scent. A few captains have had to worry about just one missile, though. In battle, humans launch salvos of thousands. Each Exorcist-class cruiser can lay down 2 missile pods every 6 seconds, and each pod holds 7 missiles. Over the course of a minute, each squadron of 24 cruisers can thus ready a salvo 3,360 missiles. The humans brought 15 full-strength Exorcist squadrons to the first Battle of Sol, and then they towed another 5,000 system defense pods into place, each of which could split into 11 missiles, when they fired 100,000 missiles streaked towards the 40 Dawn heavy cruisers and the GCS Ram. Just shy of 1,000 missiles targeting each heavy cruiser, closing the 17,000 kilometer gap in 20 seconds. Most of them never fired a shot, their sensors and crew overwhelmed by the sheer volume of the human attack. Others loosed grazer burst after grazer burst into the missile clouds, or tried to dash back to the safety of the gate. None of it was enough. The missiles found their targets, and the energy screens designed to slow lasers and gravity fields did nothing to dampen the warhead's fury. The remaining 60,000 missiles attacked the Ram, saturating the Super Dreadnought's point defense system and slamming through towards the hull. Though its hundreds of grazer batteries scored missile kills by the dozens, it hardly mattered when 50,000 missiles got through. Only one Dawn cruiser survived the first salvo, saved by some tacticians' first war prisoners, when the humans were still unaware of the Ram. The missiles left it untouched even as the other 39 raiders broke apart under the strain of hundreds of nuclear detonations. The Ram wasn't so easily killed. Its hull was blackened, its sensors momentarily blinded, and dozens of grazer batteries melted shut. But it hardly mattered. It suffered cosmetic damage, warranting minor repairs at best. The humans hadn't stopped it. The Ram kept coming. On the bridge of the RFS Unforgotten, the Neji's battle song had risen to a fervent crescendo. The bridge was alert and ready, and the usual background chatter replaced by grim faces. In the span of 5 minutes, a newfound human allies had destroyed more Dawn than we had managed to do in our 2 millennia adrift in the stars. It was a little intimidating. The Ram was coming, though, and we were still dead. Faith O'Neill finished yelling at the Dawn commander, made her way back to the mottled, crest-broken Feather's observation post. "The bastard's tough." "Of course it is," the Neji replied. "It's a super dreadnought that can waltz through a nova. The Compact built 3 of them a few centuries ago. Haven't had to replace them yet." We watched helplessly as the Ram fired its main cannon, a titanic grazer with the astounding range. It tore through one of the smaller human dreadnoughts. The UHS Constantinople bled escape pods and crew before the doom shipped. The status display flashed weapons free as the humans' admiralty scrambled to respond. The orders didn't rely on the mottled anti-linguistics by training, but it was still nice to be included. A steady stream of missiles began to pound into the Ram. The human cruiser squadron staggered their fire into concentrated streams of destruction. Some scattered randomly over the surface of the Super Dreadnought's hull, forcing the grazers into a defense fire that masked the fragile Exorcists. But most of the missiles spiraled as the concentrated beams of fire. As the barrage of fire walked back and forth across the Ram's hull, grazer blisters began to fall silent. It wasn't enough. The Ram's armor, forged to withstand the fury of the star, held the missile's fury at bay. its screens able to strip a Nova of its fury, left terawatt lasers wanting. Its lance struck as once more against the UHS Dauntless was lost at all hands. Our battle song rose and fell, mourning the loss of the fallen even as they thirsted for more. The ram kept coming. The battle song rang out over the speakers of the UHS Harrington, as it took with 5 gravities of acceleration. Gold Crest's soaring wings quivered beneath the force. Even with the help of the oversized crash couch and a small, virtually undetectable inertia dampener, the Neji warrior's bones still threatened to shatter and slice him apart. He'd volunteered for this hell a week ago, determined to prove his species worth to the fabulous new race, and trained alongside Third Squad ever since. Now he and the rest of the human boarding complement sped towards the ram. The Harrington and her sister ships cut their acceleration from the final approach, ripping their noses away from the ship as they streaked towards the invaders' massive bulk. As they covered the last few hundred kilometers, the missile salvos thickened and the electronic warfare drones joined the more explosive brothers, tripling the number of targets the super dreadnought's already overworked sensors saw. The stealthy payload-class attack shuttles, built with the same sharp lines and radar-absorbing armor as the larger Exorcist cruisers, were all but invisible in the maelstrom. A lucky grazer strike still claimed the 93 lives on board the UHS Mayhew, though their ship tearing apart before the pilot had even had a chance to notice the threat. 11 remaining boarding vessels fired their thrusters as they slipped into the bomb-scoured shuttle bay, each turning a spectacular collision into a gentle landing. Only the powerful inertia dampeners Neji engineers had installed on board the landing ships, activated now that they cleared the super dreadnought's field of defensive fire, kept the crews from dissolving into paste. Their soft impacts were all but unnoticed against the rhythmic pounding of the hundreds of warheads striking the ram every few seconds. A handful of engineers filed out of the ship and started cutting through the super dreadnought's sealed accessway hatch, visors dimmed to protect their eyes from the blinding light thrown off by the fusion bombs. They're insane, the Neji thought. Every single one of these humans is insane. On the Harrington, his squad was running through their last-minute combat checks with a ruthless efficiency. The Neji's preparations were simpler than the humans. Aside from 2 quick checks on his helmet seal and flechette launcher's ammo count, everything was automated. Somewhere in the bay, a human cranked open the battle song to keep it from being drowned out by the harsh clacks of 80 men readying their weapons and armor. The small huddle of officers and senior nomcoms broke apart and headed towards their squads. Third Squad section, where leader was amongst them. The warrant officer didn't seem pleased with the news he'd gotten. Intel just bumped their initial force estimates up. They're predicting 5 to 6 platoons worth of Nictra shock troopers in addition to the Dawn regulars. So, we're outnumbered. Again. He looked over at Gold. Tweety, how bad is it? The nickname had stuck despite the young Neji's fervent protests, but he was starting to get used to it. Nictra are worse than the Dawn Chief. The compact trains him for frontline work. Something about them makes the other races uneasy. So, they're disciplined and competent. Their code of honor's Richard, though. Managed to take one prisoner in battle, and he'll trail after you as meek as a pup. Pretty much spot on with Navnet's primer. For the rest of you grunts, just shoot the scary wolves with guns, and a shot to the head'll drop 'em if you can get rounds into their center mass. Dawn won't go down as easily, though, so keep putting rounds into them until you hit brain case. No standard parts on those bastards, so walk your shots. Primary objective unchanged, seize the bridge and stop this monster. Barring that, bring their big guns out of commission and buy the fleet some more time. Don't wreck the submarines. Nothing else can stop this beast. He broke off as the lieutenant's voice rang through the bay. Hats on, people. The tech's just finished with the hole. We've got a job to do. On the Unforgotten's bridge, the battle song morphed into a rhythmic chant, each bar straining against a furious tempo. Out in the void, the ram continued to fly through with the teeth of the human's ambush. The small casualty counter in the corner of Faith's screen ticked past 10,000 as the super dreadnought's main gun tore apart a 7th human capital ship. The human ambassador leaned forward as she watched the fresh list of injured and dead scan across the display. Her face turned into a tight grimace. "You don't have to keep watching, you know." Faith turned towards Mottled, her face grim. "I'm not looking away from this. When we finally track down whatever monster's responsible for this, I'm going to make them pay tenfold for every death and for every injury. They're going to scream." The way she sent out that last sentence almost sent me scurrying for safety. If this was one of the humans' emissaries of peace, then what were their warriors like? A flurry of new movements on the main tactical display wrenched me back into the present. The fleeing Dawn cruiser had reversed course and aimed itself for the humans' far flank. It doubtless hoped to pick up a few easy kills while the missile cruisers were distracted by the ram. It was a foolish and suicidal move, but the Dawn captain was probably too stupid to realize that. Instead, he charged forward with a reckless abandon. 9th Missile Squadron, the Dawn cruiser target, dealt with the threat by shifting their aim for a mere 24 seconds. 600 missiles soon wiped the last remaining Dawn cruiser from the sky. Their actions followed the humans' naval doctrine to the letter. They'd recognized an imminent threat and destroyed it with an overwhelming force, using their only long-range weapon systems to do so. The entire series of events had been professional, by the book, and utterly, horribly wrong. 5 seconds after the 9th Squadron redirected the fire away, a battery of grazer blisters on board the ram suddenly found their sector free with incoming targets. Freed from the desperate point of fence, the automated systems cast their sensors outward, tracing back along the paths of unknown projectiles that had held their attention microseconds ago, only to come up short against the dead end of 8,000 kilometers away from the dreadnought. They could trace the missiles back to the pods, but the pods seemed to spring from nowhere. That kept them puzzled for an entire 7 seconds. On the 8th, the analysis guessed at the presence of human missile cruisers in the region of space between the pair of pods. A tentative shot from the battery's 17 remaining grazers confirmed the guess, and the rest of the blisters opened fire. 9th Squadron, 11th Squadron, and most of the 10th Squadron were wiped from existence before the human Admiralty could rebalance the field of fire. The damage had already been done, though, with almost a tenth of the cruiser's strong gone, their ammo reserves dangerously low. The human barrage was starting to falter. The ram kept coming. The human boarding party had landed on the empty portion of the ship. Thousands of crew quarters, storerooms, and living space were deserted. "Another empty room," moaned one of the Marines as he cleared the cabin. "Why the hell would Galactic send an abandoned ship?" "Plausible deniability, crap pump," Master Corporal Jenkins fired back. "Send a ship through the gate stuffed with brim with Cappack's finest, and someone's going to talk. Send the same ship with a crew of Dawn privateers, though, and you can act all innocent if anyone tries to point fingers. Our warship? But it couldn't be our warship. The crew's on our planet for months." "Sounds like a compact," Tweety added. Their bureaucrats hate getting their hands dirty almost as much as they like keeping things nice and stable. "Damn right they don't. It's why the whole lot of them is doomed." Several groans broke out over the channel, and the Corporal Puck tried to cut him off. "Don't get on Jenkins started. He'll never stop." And the Corporal heard any objections. He didn't let on. "You see, the whole thing really just boils down to sticks. Galactic's been fighting with sticks for millennia. They've carved the best sticks, put together the best anti-stick armor, and even the best classes of stick wars. Plus, they make sure that all the fights always come down to who's got the biggest sticks. Keeps things nice and safe for the bureaucrats." The squad moved into the empty cafeteria, Jenkins pausing his rant while they scanned the room with a machine-like efficiency. Then they moved into another empty corridor, and he started again. "Then we come along. The compact storms through the gate, sticks are swinging, and we just hide in the bushes and throw rocks. They start to trample around, try to hunt down a handful of guys, we do, holding sticks, and we sneak in close and bash 'em in the back of the head with a rock. And then we pick up their stick and dress up their armor, and we're going to do here, we're going to do it again, and before long we'll be holding all the sticks and all the rocks. Galactic frickers don't stand a chance." "We won't either, if they sneak up on us while you're gabbing, Corporal." growled the warrant officer. "Keep this channel clear unless you got something useful to add." "Sorry, Chief. Just filling Tweety in on the new galactic order. That'll be the day. Just shut your trap and watch your sector." Third Squad advanced to the next 100 or so meters in silence, then rounded a corner and stepped into a dawn ambush. The squat, asymmetric aliens boiled out through the air vents and storage lockers, all but invisible until it was too late. The first volley of shots caught both squad sergeants, 4 privates and a warrant officer. They powered armor, belt to stop bullets and deflect the lasers, barely slowed the pulse rifle fire. Every shot proved fatal. The surviving Marines drove into the safety of the abandoned restroom before their fallen friends had collapsed to the ground. Tweety was close behind him, his 4 eyes wide with terror. When a Dawn tried to follow, the 4 humans shredded him with flechettes. Outside in the hall, the warrant officer's stained voice rang out over his armor speakers. "Got a present for you uglies." He detonated every one of his grenades, filling the hallway with shrapnel and fire. Jenkins chuckled softly. "Mommy always did say that I was born to lead." The shot that hit the RFS Unforgotten was, from the ram's point of view, a happy accident. The frigate would have crumpled before a direct hit. Instead, the massive crazy beam had barely grazed him, its true fury aimed at where the UHS Majestic sat 50 kilometers aft. Even a glancing hit was enough to shred the frigate's hull, though. The helmets and the magnetic lamps and Faith and Mottlehead's combat suits deployed at frightening speeds, saving them as the bridge's air rushed out through the jagged hole. Mottled felt jets of horror and battle song cut off, but it faded when he found that the comm channel was still active. The radio channels remained silent. The Neji looked around the bridge, puzzled. Where were the damage reports? Where were the sound offs? Why wasn't anyone doing anything? He quickly found the reason. The Flocklord's body floated in the middle of the command bubble, run through by dozens of splinters that had snapped off from the outer hull. Most of the staff and second-in-command had shared his fate. Only the catatonic intelligence officer and the human military attaché had survived, both of them wounded. Mottle keyed his radio to Faith's private frequently. "We've got a problem." "Yeah, of course we do. The side of the ship was just disintegrated." "It's even worse than that." When her eyes followed his outstretched, grasping arm to the center of the bridge, she paled. "Everyone on the ship who knows how to run a ship has got shredded." "Not everyone," she said grimly. Another icon popped into the circuit as she tapped on her wrist screen. "Hey, Karamazov, still remember how to command a ship?" "Yes, ma'am." The real admiral was sounding a little bit distracted, his attention focused on the 2-foot shard of metal protruding from his leg. "Why, got one for me?" "Yep. How about the Unforgotten?" The channel went silent for a moment. "Can we even do that? Their entire command staff just bought it, and I don't think anyone's going to raise much of a fit." "Very well." The icon shifted over to the general channel. "This is Real Admiral Karamazov. I am assuming command of the Unforgotten. Any objections?" The channel was silent save for the singer's mourning. After waiting for what felt like an appropriate amount of time, Karamazov continued. "All right then, damage reports, if you please." Out in the void, the ram kept coming. Jenkins was barking out orders at the survivors of the 3rd Squad charging down the bridge. "All right, guys, you know how this works. Wallace and Roberts, you're on suppression with me. Puck, you go around through anyone who pokes their head up. Tweety, you go play deathball." 3 guns and a squawk met his orders. By now, we all knew what we were doing. Tweety was still a little surprised at how well he fit into the squad. The first time they charged into the Dawn barricades, the Neji warrior had lagged behind, watching the Marines land shot after shot with a frightening accuracy. Even the battle song diving him forward, he hadn't even been able to match the human's ferocity. The 3rd time they'd overrun a pocket of resistance, he kept pace with the rest. He led the charge by the 5th, using his smaller size and greater agility to bounce between the walls of the dreadnought's narrow corridors, zipping forward faster than the terrified Dawn could react. After clearing the 9th barricade and losing 2 more men, 3rd Squad found the strategy. Now, just outside the command bridge, they readied themselves to use it again. Tweety was crouched ready to charge forward one last time, when the shake started again. Another shot of stims banished them away, but it wasn't a good sign. Without the rush of the drugs and the battle song, the little avian would probably have collapsed hours ago. The humans opened up and scavenged pulse rifles. Tweety sprang forward, diving over their heads and latching his claws onto the ventilation grate. He quickly leapt off, his head brushing against the ceiling as he zigzagged across the corridor, and scrabbled against the smooth plating with his claws for the briefest of seconds. Then he was off again, already more than halfway to the enemy fortification. A hail of pulsar darts boiled into the air mere inches below him. They paused a few seconds later and give him enough time to dive behind the makeshift barricade and score the nitro shoulders had erected. He hit the ground softly, tossing a grenade directly behind the enemy troops, and bolted around the corner. When he poked his head back around the corner, the human friends were finishing off the remaining nitro. Their terrifying accuracy more than made up for the lack of agility. "Tweety, you're getting way too good at this," remarked Roberts. "We might just have to find a way to keep you." Puck grabbed a pulse rifle from the dead defenders and began to take up position outside the door, but Jenkins stopped him short. "No pulse rifles in there. It might fry something important. We're going to have to do it with old tech." Tweety glanced down at the empty grenade belt. "Do we have any flechettes left?" Jenkins just laughed and tossed his pulse rifle out of the door. "A few, but it hardly matters, as Roberts had a chance to tell you about the martial arts obsession of his." The battle song had lost its energy. Mottled wasn't sure when it had happened, but he knew why. The human fleet lay in ruins. Only 2 human dreadnoughts remained. More than half of the Exorcist missile cruisers had been vaporized when their plunging ammo reserves forced them to slow their bombardment. The ram had almost cleared the ambush. The super dreadnought's hull was scarred, not broken. Mankind had hit it with enough warheads to crack a small planet, and it still surged forward like some ancient primal god. Yet the humans fought on. Their stubbornness astounded the battle-weary Neji. Their ships were broken, their leaders cut off or dead, but they refused to accept defeat. The UHS Normandy, its laser arrays useless against the ram's powerful screens, bled air and lifeboats as it accelerated towards the super dreadnought. The capital ship crumpled as it collided with a much larger bulk. Then it exploded with the force of a small nova as its oversized fission reactors overloaded. 30 grazer blisters fell silent. Scattered missile squadrons tried vainly to keep up with the ram, pushing their engines far beyond the limits of the crew in order to fire salvo after salvo into the fast receding super dreadnought. One by one they fell silent as their acceleration took the toll on their crews. And on the bridge of the Unforgotten, Karmazov still gave orders. He was a whirlwind of energy, speaking with a quiet authority that seemed far louder than any scream or shout. Something about his bearing pushing the Neji crew forward. "Weapons! Where are my weapons?" "Nearly back online, sir. Damage controls routing to new power line as we speak." "Excellent. Engines! What's the status on our thrust?" "Just came back online, sir. Compensators should follow shortly." "Let me know the moment they're powered home. Start pulling a course for the ram. We're going to fly right down its throat and see if we can't do some damage before it rips us up in the sky. Comes? You're still alive?" "Aye, sir. I don't care if you have to lean out the window and yell. You keep that battle song going." "Understood. Yes, sir." "You feel that, helm? Compensator just kicked in. The weapons, what are we doing with my guns?" "Just brought them back online, sir. We're running the initial tests." "Forget the tests. We wouldn't have time to fix them anyway. Warm them up for the real shot." Karmazov paused. "Helm, get the Unforgotten underway. Let's go spit in the devil's eye." Bates' clear voice broke into the fray. "Belay that, Rear Admiral." The bridge paused. Every eye turned to stare at the human diplomat. A goofy smile spread across her face that couldn't have been more out of place. "We're picking up new broadcasts from the ram, Karmazov. You're going to want to take a look." About 30 of the surviving human marines milled about the bridge and the ram, splitting their time between eyeballing the prisoners and gaining control of the ship's systems. Jenkins was fiddling with the control panel built into the oversized command chair. "Damn it, could have sworn I figured out how to turn this fricker on." Gold staggered over and swept the appraising eye over the small readout on the armrest. "You did," he said, voice slurring with exhaustion. Roberts let out a cackle. "Think you flipped it on about 2 minutes ago." Jenkins sat bolt upright, his face ashen. "Wait, it's on." The tired Neji nodded serenely. "Yep." "And broadcasting?" "Yep." "For almost 2 minutes?" "Yep." Crap. Jenkins paused. The LT wouldn't have to be hovering outside the door, ready to swoop in at the last minute to save me, would he? Nope, he bought it about an hour back. Frick. Well, here goes nothing. He took a moment to gather himself before turning to face the pickup. This is Master Corporal Walsh Jenkins broadcasting from the bridge of the GCS Ram. Could you stop shooting at us? We've got their sticks. While the humans cheered and the Neji rejoiced, their singer sang a new song, a song of victory, and the Unforgotten Skombui carried it to the rest of the exiled race. And at the end, after the last stirring chords of celebration had ended, the Neji added a short message. Come join us. We've been without a home for far too long. End of chapter. I hope that you enjoyed. If you'd like to support the channel or the author, all the stuff is down below. And as always, I hope that you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next story. Cheers.